No Kings means accountability for all elected leaders, by Donald Martell, read for you by Miriam Jackal-Dewhurst. Everyone who showed up to the No Kings protests on October 18, 2025, realizes that on some level there is something very wrong with where this country is headed and how it is operating right now. But I want to emphasize that while something is deeply wrong with this country, this cannot come as a surprise. Political, social, and economic repression have always been a part of the social fabric of this country. We are a nation founded on the removal and genocide of Native Americans, governed by laws written by men who kept slaves while hypocritically boasting the creation of a state where all men are created equal. What we're seeing today, political opponents being unfairly targeted, talk of rigging the 2026 and 2028 elections, our black and brown neighbors being snatched up off the streets by masked thugs, regardless of their immigration status, and a genocide happening in Gaza, all of it is connected. That is what our democracy has delivered us. It's time we all wake up and realize this country has never been a true democracy, and has always been a country by the rich and for the rich. This is why I declare myself a democratic socialist. I believe in everyone having a voice and being lifted up so they can use that voice. And I believe in every single human's right to healthcare, housing, education, food, water, and democracy both in and out of the workplace. That is what we must stand for if we are to fight fascism effectively, because catchy signs being waved at a protest every so often will not change things. What does change things is organizing your community, your workplace, and your political party to protect yourselves from the encroachment of fascism. Acting upon principles that are rooted in the belief that every single person deserves health care that is free at the point of service, housing that is safe and affordable, education that is cheap and accessible, water that is clean, food that is nutritious, and a political system rooted in democracy that works for regular people like us all, not just for the ultra-wealthy capitalists who own our institutions and have been eroding them for 50 years, is the way we can oppose fascism. We can fight fascism right now by holding our elected officials accountable at both the ballot box and in their offices. Accountability is crucial to any functioning democracy. In order to effectively fight fascism, we need to have the help of elected leaders. And if we want to talk about no kings, let's also talk about no vassals, feudal servants to the king. How about we get rid of the congressmen who signed onto a letter thanking Trump's ICE for all the raids they've been doing this year? Joe Morelli did that. How about we get rid of the congressmen who voted to increase Trump's military budget? Joe Morelli did that. How about we get rid of the congressman who voted to give billions of weapons to Israel despite it committing genocide against Palestinians? Joe Morelli did that. As stated by one of my favorite modern political philosophers, Matt Christman, fascism arises from the collapse of institutional legitimacy of liberal institutions. That's how we got fucking Trump, and that's how we get what's coming next after him that's going to be even worse. Because if you think there's not going to be more ecological and economic catastrophes in the future that liberalism is wholly unequipped to deal with, and that failure isn't going to lead to fascism filling that fucking hole, then you've got another thing coming. That is why the No Kings protests cannot merely demand a return to the status quo. We must demand more from our elected leaders because they're supposed to answer to us, our votes and our voices. If they are unable to offer a path toward shared humanity and guaranteed human rights to everyone, then the electorate will continue to be duped into scapegoating minorities and trying to grab as much as they can before the whole thing collapses. A better world is possible, and it can come out of actions like these, but only if we all continue working together, taking concrete political action beyond mere protest, and fight for the collective liberation of the entire working class.